Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, everybody. Here in the pre-show, TDN Daily. Hope everyone is having a great start to their Tuesday. Good morning to you, Braden. Fun show today. We're going to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. and learn a little bit more about his contract. I saw today, or yet late in the day yesterday, what the Ravens have done from a cap perspective with OBJ's contract. So we'll talk about that. Talk about what it might mean for Lamar's future and whatever else is on your guys' mind today here on the show. That is the focus of today's show. I will say, relatively quiet today. We don't have a ton of rumors. I know that YouTube unveiled their NFL Sunday ticket price, but not really something that we can discuss here as a full show concept. So maybe we discuss it here in the pre-show. But it's very, very quiet. Very, very quiet. Happy Tuesday to you, Sean. What's up, Sports Nut? Certainly does appear, based on the odds, that it is Bryce season in Carolina. Good morning, Tuttle. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody here on the show on a Tuesday. I just saw that Jamie put the trash can emoji in the Discord for my show today. So that is my co-host of the Prospects and Props podcast. That's what he's got for me here today. So really appreciate my co-host having my back here on the show today. Really appreciate that. Yeah, Sportsnut, we're going to get into some of it. We had a great conversation about it yesterday in the TDN Premium Discord on our Overreaction Monday where we talked about it. And it's going to be fascinating, but I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I mean, Braden, I will, I know you're kidding, but I will say it's probably the biggest story that currently exists right now. And it's almost kind of receded into the background to where we're not talking about it. And I'll make this point again on the show. But, Sean, I have the numbers here. Let me click on the story. I was reading it this morning. It is going to be, stand by. It's going to be $349 for Sunday Ticket and $389 with Red Zone if you have YouTube TV. That's after the $100 pre-sale discount. So they're asking you, if you sign up ahead of time, they give you a discount. If the discount ends, it's going to be $449, just a regular, if you don't have YouTube TV, and $489 without. But before June 6th, it's going to be $249 on YouTube TV and $349 outside of YouTube TV, and it's $50 more with Red Zone. So $299 if you have YouTube TV and you sign up before June 6th, gets you Red Zone and Sunday Ticket. And I will say, for somebody who's a YouTube TV subscriber, you know what? We're gonna expedite the show here a little bit. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hope everyone's having a great start to their Tuesday. But if you already have, like for me, I have the basic YouTube TV package. I add the Sports Plus package for an extra $10 a month at the beginning of the football season for Red Zone to be able to have it. And Red Zone is September, October, November, December, January. It's 5 months. So it's already costing me an extra $50. So the $50 that they're charging more for Red Zone, I would have already paid this upcoming season if YouTube TV didn't have Sunday Ticket, because I already do that for Red Zone. So you're really just paying $249 for Sunday Ticket. I know for me, as an out-of-market consumer, I'm probably going to do it just because I want to be able to watch Jets games in the comfort of my own home, and not have to deal with other various means to being able to find it. But it's expensive, but this is kind of what we thought. This was the price point that we thought they were going to come in at. I'm surprised that they're offering that discount ahead of time. That feels like where the best value is for the consumer, and that's probably what they're banking on, is that they're going to get a bunch of people to sign up ahead of time at $249 or $299 price point that currently have YouTube TV. So that's probably what they're going to do, but we'll see. Okay, so our pre-show today has been YouTube TV. We are now going to discuss Lamar Jackson. So without further ado, And welcome into the Tuesday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody is having a great start to their Tuesday. Another Lamar Jackson-esque episode here on the show. The Baltimore Ravens, the topic of conversation here on the show today. We're learning a little bit more about Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract, and we're gonna pontificate here as your word of the day on what that might mean for Lamar Jackson's future in Baltimore. Because I will say that as we wake up today here on a Tuesday, we move ourselves closer to the NFL draft. We get closer and closer. 16 days now. We are inside 16 days, almost inside of 2 weeks till the NFL draft. It's pretty quiet today on a Tuesday. Now, I say that knowing that the moment I post the podcast, something will happen, and we'll have to make that the topic of tomorrow's show. But really, I mean, there's a Greg Newsome trade request that's floating out there with the Browns, but that feels very early on to discuss here on the show. But again, pretty quiet other than the fact that the Ravens make a big move for Odell Beckham Jr., and everyone is wondering what that means about Lamar Jackson's future with the Baltimore Ravens. We'll start with the OBJ contract part of this, and then we will hop into the Lamar part of this. And again, we've got the live YouTube chat joining us here on the show that I'm sure they will derail us throughout the course of the show here today. We start with Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract. And I say this to the listeners out there in the podcast feed, the listeners out there, the watchers out there in YouTube land. I saw a tweet doing prep for the show this morning that talked about Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract. And I'm going to read the tweet to you. It's from Howard Balzer, who covers the Cardinals locally here in Arizona and has been a NFL media reporter for a very long time. This was his tweet yesterday, and I was kind of shocked when I saw this morning because of the cap part of it, but because of what he says here at the beginning. As suspected, there are 4 void years in Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract, making his cap charge $3.932 million this year. The void years push $11.068 million in prorated bonus charge to beyond this year. We are now, apparently, adding void years to 1-year contracts. That's what we're doing. We have 1-year contracts, and we're adding 4 void years to the deal to be able to prorate out the bonus to save our cap for year 1. This is the new mechanism that teams are using, because I have the contract up on overthecap.com. They prorate the bonus out over 4 other additional void years after this year. Which means, from a cap perspective, Odell Beckham Jr. is going to cost the Ravens more in 2024, not playing for them potentially, than he is playing for them in 2023. Now, I know there are going to be people out there that say, oh, this is just another example of what teams do to kind of, circumnavigate the cap and circumvent and just kind of play shell games and move the money under a different cup. I don't understand this whatsoever. I really don't. It's a 1-year contract. It's a 1-year commitment. I know you would have all the money in year 1, but then that means you have all that money available to you in future years. Instead, you're committing yourself to $11 million against the cap. 4.3% of your cap is going to be tied up in a guy that's not going to play for you next season. That does not feel weird to a lot of people. Now, if you sign a guy to a 2, 3, 4-year deal, you want to add 2 void years on the end, okay, we're going to get some value here. What if OBJ's not very good? What if it takes him a little bit to come back from a health perspective? What if he gets hurt again? Now you get nothing for him in 2023, and oh, by the way, you've now added a massive bill in 2024. The salary cap is like using credit cards and then balance transferring down the road. We've talked about this in the past with what the Saints have done. We've talked about this in the past with what the Rams have done, with what a lot of these teams do and how they maneuver money around the cap. They treat it like a credit card. And anytime they're balanced, their credit limit reaches the max, they just open a new credit card, they balance transfer, poof. Now they've got all this money that they're able to spend in the short term. Braden says OBJ could honestly be on 2 more teams if you wanted to be by the time you hit the final void year. Yeah, no, I will tell you, Braden, the way the contract looks on overthecap.com, there's no cap number in 25, 26, and 27. That's just what they're doing to prorate the bonus out and beyond 2023. right? So he doesn't count against the cap, at least according to the contract that I'm looking at on the other screen here on overthecap.com. He doesn't count towards the cap in 25, 26, and 27. He does count towards the cap in 24 to the tune of $11 million. He counts for 1.8% of the cap this year, 4.3% of the cap next year. That's the difference to not play for the Baltimore Ravens. Michael says the perception around the Ravens by free agent wide receivers has been brutal for years. They were always going to need to overpay to turn the tides and finally land someone. Glad they finally bit the bullet. Now, Michael, I understand the point that you're making. I don't know if I would describe this as an overpay, more so that I would describe this as a very, very peculiar way to construct a contract for a guy that's only going to play for you for one season. If you signed him to a 2-year deal, you wanted to add 2 void years on the back, okay, I can get on board with that. You're going to get 2 years of value. You're getting 1 year for Odell Beckham Jr. Now you lower the cap to 3.9, gives you opportunity to do something. But overall, let's look at it from this perspective, because the guaranteed money is 15. The contract ranking, according to overthecap.com, is 22nd out of 298. Now I'm gonna sort by annual average value to see where he fits in. He fits into the Cortland Sutton, Allen Robinson, Hunter Renfrow, the people in front of him. He's ahead of Corey Davis, Michael Gallup, Curtis Samuel. That feels about right for where Odell Beckham Jr. is in his career, and there's probably some value in that. So I don't have a problem with the $15 million. I don't have a problem with the escalators that get him to $18 million. We saw what Odell Beckham Jr. was for the Rams in that Super Bowl run. Was a major part of the reason why they were there. Was a major part of why they were doing well in that game before he got hurt, right? To me, signing him for $18 million isn't the problem. It's this cap magic that's a little weird to me. Tuttle says all the sleight of hand for the cap, but they just watched the Tariq Woolens of the world pass them behind the draft. It's kind of a false equivalency there, but I get your point, is that we do all this hard work over here to try to just do sleight of hand for the cap, but we don't do the hard work, and we let good players pass us by in the draft, right? I think that's generalizing a little bit. They are doing the hard work, and I think Tariq's an interesting name to invoke here because he had such a good rookie season. But I think the concerns that led him to be available to the Seahawks where he was, because remember, the Seahawks also passed on him a couple of times. The reasons that allowed Tariq Woolen to get to that point was he went to a small school, was a converted wide receiver, had only been playing corner for, one season at that point. So there were some concerns about what that transition was going to look like to the NFL level. But in speaking to him, you could tell he was excited about playing corner at the next level. You could tell he had a very good understanding of the transition, talked about how much playing wide receiver helped him at the corner position. I mean, we did an interview here at the Draft Network talking to Tariq, and I was the producer for that interview. Got a chance to talk to them before, after, and during. And, it was a home run. It was one of our guys after having that conversation. So, but I understand the point, Total. We do all this hard work over here, and we can kind of make some silly mistakes on the other side of this. But, yeah, I don't have a problem with the contract. I don't have a problem with the $18 million. Problem's too big of a word, but just it's peculiar to me. And then Howard Balzer in his tweet says, as is suspected. Suspected? We suspected this? This is what we thought? This is the new operating norm in the NFL for one-year contracts? That's what we do? We kick the can down the road. We give ourselves a bigger bill. That's like eating the meal and then saying, I'll pay on the next visit, but I won't get anything. I'll just come in and I'll pay the bill. So you go into a nice fancy restaurant, you sit down, you say, waiter, I would like to just pay for, hold on, I want to make the analogy very accurate here. Stand by. If we're gonna do the bit, we're gonna do it correctly here on the show. I'm gonna pay for 1.8% of the bill. And then when I come back next time, I'm not gonna get anything. I'm just gonna come in, say hello, greet everybody, and I'm gonna pay the remainder of the bill. Pay the remainder of the bill then. That's what the Baltimore Ravens are doing. They're eating the meal, but they're not paying for the full bill. They're gonna pay for it later when there's no meal. It's absurd to me. It's absurd that this is the way we do things in the National Football League. Now, there are teams that do this very well, and they do it in a way that allows them to structure contracts and restructure contracts and play around with the way contracts are structured to give them maximum flexibility. Again, the standard bearer of this is the way Patrick Mahomes' contract is structured in the short term. It's a great contract. There's ways for the Chiefs to get out of it down the road if they need to, but it also gives them great flexibility to be able to build a roster. So I'm not poo-pooing the idea of being creative and having your cap gurus, your cap guys, your cap gals, whoever's running that department of your front office from doing whatever is possible to give you the most cap in a given season. I just think now we're overdoing it a little bit. I don't think this is something we need to explore. 1-year deals that we're adding void years onto. And again, I've read the book on Crunching Numbers, which is by Jason at overthecap.com. I've read the book. I have a pretty good understanding of a lot of the way this cap stuff works. I will tell you, I don't understand how we can add void years in 25, 26, and 27 and prorate the bonus out, but them not count towards the cap for anything. Then why are they years on the contract? They're years on the contract to be able to prorate the bonus out, but you're not paying them anyway. There's no gap. Very confused. I need somebody to sit me down and explain how that mechanism works. Very, very weird on how that operates. Okay, I didn't think we were going to go 10 minutes on this topic. I didn't think Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract was going to take us to the 10-minute portion of the show, but there is a lot to unpack here, and again, the way this is structured is very, very weird. But again, 22nd is where Odell Beckham Jr. ranks. So I don't have a problem with the price. I just have a problem, or a little bit of an issue, with the way that this is structured. Now, the important leap that people were making after this Odell Beckham Jr. contract was, well, what does this mean for Lamar Jackson's future? And Michael, asks a follow-up question to the contract discussion that we were just having, but it also could tie into what we're about to talk about with Lamar Jackson. He says, do you take this as the Ravens going all in on 23 or just not wanting a huge single-year void penalty, or both? I'm not in that room. I don't have those contacts. I don't have those conversations. But, Michael, my guess is it's probably a combination of the two, right? They want to create maximum flexibility for 2023 so that they can kind of all in's probably strong of a word while they're dealing with this Lamar stuff. And again, that's why these things tie in. But they are probably going to try to be competitive and compete. And also saying, you know what? Maybe they have the flexibility in future years to where they're willing to bite the bullet and pay the bill down the road. And I'm going to look right now what their future cap considerations look like. Going into 2024, they have $67 million in cap space right now, and that's with Odell Beckham Jr.'s $11 million already on the books. So they felt like we don't want a huge single-year void penalty, so we will kind of spread this out a little bit. We'll pay the cap down the road. We don't have to pay it all in year one. We can keep our maximum flexibility for 2023. But everybody saw this, and they thought, that's got to mean something about Lamar Jackson. And I will tell you, a lot of the context clues tell us that that's the case. Odell Beckham Jr. talking to Lamar Jackson. Odell Beckham Jr. in his Instagram post announcing that he was signing with the Ravens. His son wearing a Lamar Jackson jersey. And again, I've said this. I think I said it here yesterday. It was either on the show or in the post show where we were talking about it. I forget exactly where, but I know I said it in our Overreaction Monday meeting in the TDN Premium Discord. But we talked about the fact that either Odell Beckham Jr. is the biggest optimist in the world, or he knows something that we don't. Those are the only two buckets I think this falls into. And then I saw some reporting that Odell Beckham Jr., Lamar Jackson, celebrating that he was coming to the Baltimore Ravens. Celebrating in Miami, I believe is what I saw. They were seen in Miami celebrating the wide receiver signing. There was reports from the NFL Network that Lamar actively recruited Odell Beckham Jr. to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I will tell you, that makes a lot of sense. We understand how those things fit together, right? Odell Beckham Jr. signed a one-year deal. Is probably only doing so with Baltimore if he knows Lamar Jackson's going to be there. Them talking makes sense. Him signing there makes sense if he knows that Lamar's going to come back. But the question that I will ask this group, rhetorically to those of you in the podcast feed who can't answer immediately, but to the rest of you in the chat, in the YouTube chat, do you feel today, with Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Baltimore Ravens, do you feel more confident, less confident, or the same about Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens coming to terms on a long-term contract extension? Because that's the crux of this. I know the non-exclusive tag is on Lamar. And I know that all of this news points us in the direction of him coming back. But I don't think he's going to play under the tag, which means they're going to have to come to terms on a long-term deal. And they feel very far apart in what they're asking. Now, I will tell you, we don't know what Lamar Jackson is asking. There's no agent that's potentially leaking things to the media so that we can get an idea or put pressure on Baltimore, because an agent helps you in a bunch of different ways, right? An agent can help you get context on what contract demands are. That agent's going to do the work to figure out what the contract demands can be, what they think is reasonable. They're going to negotiate on your behalf. They're going to be that buffer between team, front office, coaches, and player, right? This is like where in the arbitration situation in the national football, in the Major League Baseball, is tough because the player basically has to sit in a room and watch his team talk bad about him. The agent, in this case, in a contract, is supposed to be that buffer. But also the agent can use the media to their advantage. An agent can use the media to influence, can do it to put pressure, can do it to leak contract demands, to, again, put pressure, to influence, to make it known what they're looking for in a contract. That's what an agent can do. We don't know any of that for Lamar. We don't know what he's asking for, right? He's representing himself. We don't know what currently Baltimore's asking or offering. We know what Baltimore offered back in the beginning of the year. We know what it was at the beginning of the season. It was like $200 million. It was $133 million guaranteed, but it was basically a 3-year, $133 million guaranteed contract. Those guarantees would beat a lot of contracts. The total money, $200, was a little lower than Kyler's. And again, when you compare this to other contracts that have been given out, compare it to Kyler's contract, compare it to Josh Allen's contract, I don't think he's going to reach Mahomes' value. I don't know if he's not going to get the fully guaranteed that Deshaun Watson got. I mean, these are all things that factor in, and these are things that having an agent would help you kind of decipher, and really, selfishly would give us context because something would leak in that regard. But nothing's leaking because I don't know what kind of conversations are going to be are being had right now. Michael says, think Lamar comes back on the tag in May once post-draft offer sheets don't impress. Then the deal gets worked out either in the summer or after the season. I think that's some wishful thinking. Are there offer sheets right now that are impressing? Right? I feel like if a team had an offer sheet for Lamar Jackson, we would hear about it. Now, post-draft in May, the only teams that enter the fray that are not currently in the fray are the Dolphins, the 49ers, and the Rams. Those are your three teams that enter the fray that are currently not available to be in the fray because they don't have a 2023 draft pick to offer. So look at those three teams. Do you think those three teams are going to dramatically shift the way this operates? Maybe. I'm skeptical. The Dolphins did pick up the 5th-year option for Tua. I think they would be the team most likely to explore it. I don't know if San Francisco would. I don't know if the Rams would. So that's, those are the only three teams you're adding to the bucket. Tuttle says, I expected him to stay before. I'd lean that the signing helps. I would agree. I think this points in the direction of him staying. But again, I think he could also sit out. That's certainly a possibility. If he doesn't, I don't think he's going to play under the tag. I really don't. It's $32 million. And we just did this last year where he, wanted a contract and, was hurt at the end of the year. And I think he's going to look at that and say, I'm not going to play when there's no guarantee for my future beyond the current season. I'm not saying that he did that, but I think now that it happened and that he was hurt and it forced him to miss time at the end of the year and he wasn't able to play in a playoff game, I think he's going to recognize the fact that, like, hey, if beyond this season's not guaranteed for me and there's not a lot of money guaranteed for me with the way that I play, I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue to do this. Braden says, I guess I feel the same in the Ravens ceiling. I just wonder if Lamar were to get a deal to stay, if it's somewhat of a short-term rather than long-term. And I wonder, the more this drags on, the more conversations that we have here, I wonder if the Baltimore Ravens go to Lamar and approach him with a short-term, fully guaranteed offer. We've seen this. I mean, Kirk Cousins got a fully guaranteed contract from the Minnesota Vikings, who was just shorter deals, 3 years. They could go and approach Lamar with a short-term, 3-year, fully guaranteed contract. What's that number going to look like? $40 million a season, which is the going rate right now. Daniel Jones just got 40. It's $3,120. It was $3,133 in the contract in September, and he didn't want that. So what's the number going to look like for Lamar to be interested? Again, not arguing, just pointing out, I think, the important steps in logic that we need to take here in order to think this out. These are important questions that need to be answered, and I'm sure they're having these conversations. Shout out to Heldy. Welcome into the live stream here, the TDN Daily live stream. He says the same. I still think it gets done eventually. If I were to guess, I think Lamar caves on less guarantees rather than the Ravens caving to Lamar. I just find it hard to believe that a quarterback of his profile will change teams off of a rookie deal. It just doesn't happen. The signing certainly doesn't sway things significantly in any direction. I think I largely agree. I think I'm neutral on this. We asked yesterday what were the percentage chances that he signs, that he takes snaps for the Baltimore Ravens week 1 of the season, that he's the starting quarterback under center week 1 taking snaps for the Baltimore Ravens. And I was originally 50-50 because I'm still skeptical that he would play under the tag, which would mean a long-term contract, and they feel so far apart that I don't know how they're going to be able to bridge the gap. I walked it down a little bit to like 25% because, again, I have a lot of questions about what Lamar's at, and these are genuine questions. I think Lamar is an otherworldly talent. I would pay Lamar a lot of money. A lot of money to be my quarterback. And my team right now currently still in the market for a quarterback, despite the Aaron Rodgers trade not being finalized. I would pay Lamar Jackson a lot of money. But if teams aren't going to give him a fully guaranteed deal, and he wants a fully guaranteed deal, and that's the impasse, I don't know how they break through that. I don't know what number is above what's been offered he's going to want. Josh Allen got a 6-year, $250 million contract. I think only $100 million of it was guaranteed. Would Lamar sign that? Would Lamar sign the Kyler Murray deal? 5 years, $230.5 million with, I forget what Kyler's got guaranteed. I think it's $100 for him as well. Would he sign that deal? If the answer to that question is no, then this is a tough impasse to break. Right? It's tough. Heldy asked, do we think Hurts signing before Lamar would help or hurt the Ravens? I personally think it would help them, considering from everything I've heard the deal will be more Mahomes-esque than Watson-esque. I am of the belief, this was another question that we asked in the TDN Premium Discord yesterday, and we kind of talked about it. Cheap plug, if you haven't, we did a show last week where we talked about what these contracts would look like for Herbert, for Burrow, for Jalen Hurts, the name that you invoked there, Heldy. And I think the way that I would respond to that is I think it would help the Ravens, and I think it would hurt Lamar in this context. I think those three guys, Hurts, Burrow, Herbert, are all not going to sign fully guaranteed contracts. They are not going to sign Deshaun Watson-esque deals. So if three other big marquee franchise quarterbacks get contract extensions, those numbers are going to help Lamar kind of recontextualize the market. But if those guys don't sign fully guaranteed deals, I think that hurts Lamar. Because then he continues to be on an island of he wants to join Deshaun as the only two players to get the long-term, fully guaranteed contract extension. And again, you want to call it collusion. You want to call it all the owners getting together and not wanting to sign fully guaranteed deals. Again, you got to prove that in a court of law. I would largely agree that there's probably something going on in that capacity. But since we don't know, we can't really say with certainty. But if that's the reality we live in, and that's what Lamar wants, and he's not going to budge off that demand, we don't know if that's what Lamar wants. We don't know if that's a demand he's unwilling to come off of, right? We don't know. Again, if he had an agent, the agent could leak, no, we're not looking for a fully guaranteed contract. We're not fully committed to that being the only path to us having a long-term contract extension. Again, another reason why an agent would help. But I think this point moving forward, I don't know how much an agent would help. I think the relationship is in such a dire place from all of it. I mean, he requested a trade from the team. But I do think Hurts, Herbert, and Burrow signing contracts would help the Ravens because it would give them more numbers to point to and say, hey, we'll give you something close to this. We'll give you something close to this. But what about this? I mean, that's the direction that they could potentially go in. Again, I think the Odell Beckham Jr. news keeps it at a neutral, but don't think that they didn't talk, and don't think that Lamar probably told him, yeah, I'm hoping to work things out, and we'll see if they're able to work things out. Again, I don't see things getting done, and I've been wrong. I admit when I'm wrong on this show all the time. I have been wrong on this story at every single turn. I thought he would have signed before the season began last year. I thought they were going to find a way to get to a deal before the tag. I did not think they were going to put the non-exclusive tag on. I mean, I have been wrong at every single turn of this story. So I'm going to say that he doesn't sign between now and the draft, fully telling you that I've been wrong at every turn of this story. So all I'm doing is making a prediction that more than likely is not going to come true because my track record on this story is about 0 for a million. If you were paying quarterbacks, where would Lamar stack up with the other three do for deals in your rankings, not how it would actually pay out? For me, I would go Burrow, Hurts, Lamar, Herbert, paying them in that order. And I think all four should be in the upper tier of quarterback pay from a pay scale perspective. I think Burrow and Hurts get pushed towards the top because they have great championship-esque pedigrees, right? Both have been to a Super Bowl. I think the leaps that Jalen Hurts has made as a passer is something that should not go unnoticed. What he does to adds in the run game is also massive. Burrow's taken his team deep into the playoffs a bunch, has been to a Super Bowl, and so that championship pedigree, that winning a conference championship, going to a Super Bowl, and again, I know they didn't win Super Bowls. That's a knock against them, but I don't think the reason why those two teams lost the Super Bowl was because of their quarterback play. right? So I think those two are first. I think Lamar is a former MVP. I think he's a unicorn at the position. I think he does things that make it really tough on defenses to be able to scheme for you. And when he's healthy, when he's playing, he's one of the more dynamic players at the position. Herbert, I love Herbert. I think Justin Herbert's exceptional. Doesn't have the track record that those other guys do. So if I have to pay him right now, and I'm comparing him to the other guys in this bucket, he doesn't have the resume. He's very talented. I think this year's going to be really decisive for him in terms of the narrative set around Justin Herbert. But for me, he would be fourth. And again, still think he should be paid as a top 6 player at the position. When we're talking about these 4 guys, I think they all should draw in there. Heldy says, Eric DeCosta has taken a really strange direction for this process. I've never been a fan of him like the media has been, but to see all of these defenders sign high-profile deals with Baltimore before Lamar is a tough look. Yeah, it's a tough look for everybody. This is not a great situation. I mean, Baltimore fans aren't enjoying this. The Baltimore front office isn't enjoying this. Lamar is not enjoying this. This is a lose-lose-lose situation across the board. It is in the best interest of all 3 sides to be able to come together and get a long-term deal done. If they aren't, the best thing in everybody's situation would be able to find a trade partner. But again, that non-exclusive tag kind of complicates what they could get back in the deal, and teams are so afraid that the Ravens are just going to match whatever is signed by Lamar with another team. And so it's just a lose-lose-lose situation across the board. And again, I don't see it really getting done with anytime soon. All right, that's going to be it for the podcast feed listeners of the show. Appreciate you guys making this show a part of your day. Please rate, review, subscribe. Come and join us on the YouTube side of things. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go live on YouTube a little bit early. We do the pre-show. You guys hear the recording of the show, and then we have the post-show shenanigans where it's kind of a free-for-all. We continue the discussion on the topics on the show, but everything else gets thrown in there as well. So please rate, review, subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. Come on and join us sometime this week over on the YouTube feed, the Draft Network on YouTube, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Tuesday. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Heldy says they built that offensive line for a Lamar-schemed offense. It would be a disaster if they lost Lamar. Yes, it would. Again, it's a lose-lose-lose situation across the board. Nobody wins in that situation. It is in everybody's best interest to come to the table and get a long-term deal done. Will cooler heads prevail? Will sanity prevail towards the end of this? I think so. I just think it's taking longer than expected. Al Bundy, Woe Bundy, good morning. How are you? We are in the post show. What shenanigans would everybody like to get into while after talking for 26 minutes or whatever it was, I take a sip of water? Which from a red Solo cup, because what a first world problem this is. I have a Stanley. My girlfriend got me a Stanley cup. I left it at her house, and so now I don't have a cup. I don't have a big cup for water, and I just use a plastic cup all day because I don't want to have to keep doing dishes. And now I don't have my Stanley. I know it's a first world problem, but it's unbelievable what happens when you get introduced something into your life like a Stanley, and now it's gone. Sam, Sam, assistant GM of the program, appreciate that. Please like the video. Really appreciate the help, support it gives toward the show as we continue to grow. We've got some new faces that are joining every single day, and it is great to see that this continues to grow. I win as someone who doesn't like the Ravens. You know what, Braden? I didn't factor that in. Oh, Braden, I don't know if you've listened to Prospects and Props. You get a major shout out in the Takes on Takes portion of the show. So you should listen to that. But I did not factor you into my lose math equation. So I apologize for doing that. People say the Ravens could have handled this better. What were they supposed to do if he didn't want to sign a deal yet? Takes 2 to tango. So it's a great point, Michael. It's a great point. Again, everybody loses here. This is not a situation where, I think obviously Lamar has what he wants in a contract, and if the Ravens aren't willing to give him that, and the Ravens offer him a contract and Lamar doesn't want to sign, the only thing the Ravens could do would be to completely acquiesce and give Lamar what he wants, right? But if they are just unopposed to doing that, or they are opposed to doing that, then it's not going to happen. What's the Ravens offense going to look like without Roman? I think it's going to be much improved. What's the most you've ever spent on a Funko Pop? Sam, I'm assuming you see the Funko Pops on this shelf, and you probably don't see the ones on the shelf above. These are not. I'm going to completely derail us here, and so I'm going to keep this brief. These are all not personal collections. These are not personal collection pops. These are pops that I buy in bulk off of people, Facebook Marketplace, offer up things like that, and then I resell them. I have a reselling business. So these are all ones that I've acquired from people at pretty reasonable prices in bulk. Like this whole set down here I got from one person. This is a Star Wars collection that I got from one person. And then up here, there's a full set collection that I got from somebody. And so then I buy them and then I resell them, sell them individually. How do we feel about teams like Atlanta and Washington seemingly being willing to ride out a season with day 2 or 3 second-year quarterbacks who typically don't see historical success as a starter? Makes me think both could still be viable trade-up teams. I agree with the second part, Heldy. Atlanta's kind of on the outside looking in of the quarterback conversation where they're picking. They would have to move up. I'm not a hustler. I pay people fair value for what they're trying to get rid of. Do not call me a hustler. They're picking 8. Washington's at 16. I don't know where Washington's getting up to, right? We're talking about Tennessee moving up from 11, and what would that cost? What would it cost for Washington to be able to move up to a spot where they're able to make a pick? Atlanta's at 8, and I think they would have to get to 3. They could do it, but we don't hear any noise in that regard. It's just not one of they're just not one of the teams we've heard talked about very much. They feel very committed to the idea of giving Desmond Ridder another year. And again, they were a team that we all thought were going to be in on Lamar. So the fact that they pivoted away from Lamar and they're just rolling with Desmond Ridder, it's a little weird. Really excited to hear that. Takes on Takes needed to stay alive somehow, and Prospects and Props is honestly one of my favorite shows because of what I can learn. Well, I appreciate that, Braden. We're Jamie and I are having a lot of fun. Jamie and I have been doing shows together for a really long time. So when we took a break from doing TDN Fantasy, we kind of missed working. We work together every day, and we have conversations and we have meetings. But doing a show together is different. Doing a show together is a lot of fun. So it's a great time. And so I'm glad that people can learn from it. And again, we're going to do takes on takes every day. We're going to try to sneak in takes from the community each and every day. More likely to be traded, Mac Jones or Kirk Cousins? I will say Kirk Cousins. Stenson Bennett, you are a Falcon. Heldy, don't wish that on the Atlanta fans. Atlanta is a cheap owner. Atlanta don't care if they scrub a season. They scrubbed it last year. Plus, they paid $20 million for Heineke. Yeah, Atlanta is in a transitional period. They won 7 games last year in a year where a lot of people thought they were going to be pretty bad. They made me push a bet with Joe with them in Carolina, so I am appreciative of the season that they had. Sam Teets. If there was Braden, I see your question, but I'm going to get to Sam's here because it's thought-provoking. If there was an expansion draft tomorrow and you could protect 6 players on the Jets, who are you protecting? We are protecting Quinnen Williams. We are protecting Sauce Gardner. We are protecting Garrett Wilson. We are protecting Elijah Vera Tucker. We are protecting Breece Hall. And we are protecting... This is tough. Am I bringing DJ? Am I bringing Jermaine and betting on upside? Am I bringing... I can't bring Makai. That would just be laughable. We're going to bring Jermaine. Jermaine's going to be the 6th guy. So we're going to go Q, Garrett, Sauce, Elijah, Breece, Jermaine. Those are the 6 we're going to protect. I don't think there's anybody that I forgot that it would be blasphemous to forget. But those are the 6 that I would protect. Speaking of bets, if you had to guess what round Stenson goes in right now, what are you saying, Chris? 6th or later? 6th or later. Yeah, I held it's a great point. Like they just paid Jesse Bates. Like they paid Jesse Bates a lot of money. They spent in free agency. Let me look at Atlanta's team right now and see where they've got their money allocated and see how much of it is recent. They got Chris Lindstrom on an extension, right? They signed David Onyemata. They added Calais Campbell. They traded for Jonnu Smith. Caleb McGarry returned. Like these guys are good players. So they spent money. They haven't spent money at the quarterback position, but they've spent money. Taylor Heineke, as their backup quarterback. Sam, I didn't go into it with that intent to do 3-3 split, but it's just kind of the way I think the team falls. I think there would be people that would argue DJ over Jermaine. I'm just betting on upside and getting more to my pass rush, right? That's kind of the thought there for me with Jermaine over DJ Reed. And some people might, some people might pick Mekhi. You'd have to pick, Hurts would have to be in there. Hurts, Brown, Devonta is good. Hassan Reddick's a good pick. Lane Johnson and Sweat. Yeah, I would have to go through the roster a little bit more intently to see if you overthought somebody there. But on a first look, I don't. You passed on Slay. Would be the one that I would bring up first. I'm just looking through here. But yeah, there's a reason why they were in the Super Bowl last year, guys. Like, they got a good team. They're very well balanced. Sam, the interesting thing about your question is, do we think? I'll ask this question to the group. I think this is the only way that they could do this, but I would think if they expand. Think about this, right? We talked about. I think it was like 2 weeks ago on the show. We talked about the story that the NFL might add an international division sooner rather than later. So that would mean they would be adding 4 teams right away. What would that expansion draft look like? Like, because you have 4 teams picking players. Like, it would be very, very odd to see, like, how they would structure that. Because if they let everybody just protect, 6 players and everybody else is available, and you've got 4 teams picking, like, you're really going to impact the current NFL teams as well a ton. So you would like the parity you'd be like artificially creating is very interesting. I don't know why I just make them only draft European guys. Sam, we need the international division to be competitive. We need the international division to be able to. You want to talk about the NFL finding a gold mine. If the NFL international division can have a team or 2 teams do what the Vegas Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken did in the NHL, oh boy. That would be a home run for them. You want to talk about the buzz that they would have? Right. Well, Braden, they did the same thing with Vegas, right? Everyone got to protect a certain number of players, and they had to keep players that had no move clauses, and those had to be part of their protects, and then everybody got a pick. But, man, that's just one team. You're going to do that 4 times? Al Bundy says, what 4 countries? England, Germany, and blank. So, if you... there's a great map, and I don't know if anyone took me up on my suggestion when I said this on the podcast, but there's a great map that you can look up that overlays the geographical map of the NFL teams. So it takes where all the NFL teams are in the United States from their locations, and it lifts them up, and it slides it over, and it drops them all on Europe, and it shows you where all those countries are. You could put teams in the UK, you could put a team in Spain, you could put a team in Italy, you could put a team in France, and that would basically be the geographical distance that the NFC West teams would travel to play each other. So you don't have to put all of the teams in one country. I think you would probably get it 1, if not 2, in the United Kingdom, London specifically. I think Germany is going to be one because they're continuing to play a lot of games there. I think France is an interesting category. Spain is an interesting country. Italy, like those teams, that pocket of the country of the continent also makes a ton of sense. Shout out Seattle for making the playoffs in their second season this year. That's what I'm saying, Braden. Vegas went to the Stanley Cup final. Their first year as an expansion team. Like, that's what the NFL needs. That's the NFL's golden goose. That's their white whale. If they could expand and have those teams be immediately competitive, like have the team that wins that division, like be a legitimate threat, that would be a home run for the league for what they're trying to do. Home run. Sure, Al. I wasn't saying like France or Spain with any kind of market research. I'm just saying from a because the geography and the logistics are going to matter here almost as much as the market research. And so just from a sheer distance perspective, that's what you're talking about. But they might start with just teams in like the UK and Germany. You could just start with those two and expand from there. But I think it's coming sooner rather than later. There's that quote in that story from an owner that says an international division is coming, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, whenever, it's coming. So, I mean, that is something that is on the horizon. I'm going to make this the last call for questions. I do have some things I need to take care of before the TDN staff meeting here at the top of the hour. So I will make this the last call for any comments or questions or thoughts here as we wrap up another edition of the show. France would instantly be my least favorite team. Hell, what do you got against the French, man? Come on. The time zones on that would be fun too, like when those games would get played. I think they would just slot them into the 1 p.m. window, and they would just play like super late over there in the respective countries. I think would be the way that they would do it. Oh, this is the post show, right? I can talk about other sports. Shout out to the Tampa Bay Rays, 10-0, first team to start 10-0 since I think like I'm looking right now, 87 Milwaukee Brewers. You kidding me? Shout out to the Tampa Bay Rays, 10-0. First time since 1987 a team has done that. Absolutely insane. All right, folks, that is going to do it for us here on this edition of the show. If you joined a little late, please give that a thumbs up, the video a thumbs up. But 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are here every single day on the YouTube channel. Prospects and Props, the video version, coming out a little bit later today. I had to make some edits to it. So it's going to come out in about an hour and 15 minutes from now. It's going to premiere on the YouTube channel. But you can get that right now. It's available in your podcast feeds. If you missed some of the show here, you can either watch it back here on YouTube or it's going to hit the podcast feeds within the next hour. But I appreciate everybody. How about those two Mets hitters? Braden, I was watching that game last night. It was insane. It was insane that they basically both hit the same ball and it stayed fair. So 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we hang out here. You've got this show in the podcast feed coming up in the next hour. And Prospects and Props coming out on the YouTube feed in about an hour and 15 minutes, already in your podcast feed if you want to listen to just the audio-only version of the show. I appreciate everybody hanging out. I appreciate everybody being part of the show, being part of the conversation. Again, I love what we're building here, and I'm glad that you can all be a part of it here with me each and every day. Hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Enjoy whatever craziness comes to us here from the NFL world. Have a great day, everybody. I will talk to everybody tomorrow.